Hi. So, on to a very contentious subject. Was Ben Solo gaslighting Rey in the throne room scene when he asked her to join him? Yeah, I just listened back to that little piece and it sounds very weird. I'll try not to speak like that again. Right, on a serious note, now the subject of gaslighting and what that means exactly is sustained mental and emotional abuse over time in order to get that individual to doubt themselves. Was Ben doing this by saying that she comes from nothing, that she is nothing, essentially calling her a nobody? I don't think so. I think he was a little bit desperate to get Ray to join him. But most importantly, I honestly felt that that was how he truly felt towards Ray, with him saying, but not to me. At the time, I had wondered if that statement by him was some kind of clue into their bond, and was Ben Solo's feeling towards Ray driving their connection, so to speak. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is a direct correlation with Anakin's and Padme's relationship in the prequel trilogy. So, for those of you who love the reverse Anadala connection, you will definitely get a kick out of what I'm going to tell you now. Keep in mind that I'm exploring the terms nothing and nobody, and that we are seeing reoccurring themes that have been explored in previous Star Wars material. This is an extract from a scene in the Clone Wars that takes place between Anakin and Padme. Padme says to Anakin, "I have to bring this bill to the Senate. It's important." Anakin responds, "More important than the way you feel about me." She says, "Not more important, but important. The work I do, the work we both do, is in service to the Republic, to protect those who otherwise be powerless to protect themselves." Anakin responds, "Of course, those are ideals. Isn't our love more important to you?" Padme responds with, "But." And Anakin says, "No, no, but. To me, there is nothing more important than the way I feel about you. Nothing." Padme responds, "Anakin, don't be so." And Anakin says, "You don't believe me?" Padme says, "I didn't say that." Anakin responds with, "I'll prove it. Just watch. When I finished constructing my lightsaber, Obi-Wan said to me, 'Anakin, this weapon is your life. This weapon is my life.'" Padme says, "No, Anakin, I can't. A Jedi lightsaber is..." "Wow, it's heavier than I thought." Anakin responds, "It's yours. Believe me now." Padme, "If all you want to do is make fun of me, I think you should just go." Anakin, "That's not what I want. Not at all." And then I believe he embraces her and she puts down the lightsaber. Talk about foreshadowing with that relationship. Then there is another bit that actually occurs in the Revenge of the Sith novel. I don't know where exactly, I've just seen it quoted in social media and I've tried to find it in the book, but I can't. But it talks about Anakin feeling Padme in the Force and how his connection with her has become so much stronger even than his relationship with Obi-Wan, that of master and Padawan, and obviously later, master and knight. So I think that's quite telling that in addition to the force bond that can occur between a master and their apprentice, we also have a much stronger connection between two individuals who are romantically attached. And as far as I know, Padme isn't force sensitive. So you can imagine what that bond would be like between Ben Solo and Rey. The possibilities there are unlimited, basically. The next bit that I want to talk about is, again, something else that occurs in the Revenge of the Sith, and it's from Padme's perspective, and it's on page 160 of the hardback book, and it states that this is Padme Amidala. She is an astonishingly accomplished young woman who, in her short life, has been already the youngest ever elected queen of her planet, a daring Partisian guerrilla, and a measured, articulate, and persuasive voice of reason in the Republic Senate. But she is, at this moment, none of these things. She can still play at them. She pretends to be a senator. She still wields the moral authority of a former queen. And she is not shy about using her reputation for fierce physical courage to her advantage in political debate. But her innermost reality, the most fundamental, unbreakable core of her being, is something entirely different. She is Anakin Skywalker's wife. Yet wife is a word too weak to carry the truth of her. Wife is such a small word, such a common word, a word that can come from a downturned mouth with so many petty, unpleasant echoes. For Padme Amidala, saying, "I am Anakin Skywalker's wife," is saying neither more nor less than "I am alive." So I think it's pretty much safe to assume that Padme, before Anakin even entered her life, considers herself nothing. That her relationship with Anakin defines her as a person. And this is someone who was a former queen, who was not nothing, someone who was crucial to the events that occurred in the prequel trilogy. She was instrumental in the Senate. So continuing on with the book, she states, her life before Anakin belonged to someone else, some lesser being to be pitied, some poor, impoverished spirit who could never suspect how profoundly life should be lived. Really emotional, deep, insightful point of view. Her real life began the first time she looked into Anakin Skywalker's eyes and found in there not the uncritical worship of little Annie from Tatooine, but the direct, unashamed, smouldering passion of a powerful Jedi, a young man to be sure, but every centimetre a man whose legend was already growing within the Jedi Order and beyond, a man who knew exactly what he wanted and was honest enough to simply ask for it, a man strong enough to unroll his deepest feelings before her without fear and without shame, a man who had loved her for a decade with faithful and patient heart while he waited for the act of destiny he was sure would someday open her own heart to the fire in his. I have to say I am shooketh after reading that excerpt from the novel. I would bet my life that what I just read to you was exactly how Ben Solo was feeling about Rey. The parallels are so telling. The references to Nobody and Nothing are just astounding, and I think sheds a whole new light on the exchange between Ben and Rey in the throne room. I mean, when he had just killed Snoke, the way he looks at Rey, it's just magical. His expression just typifies that he thinks that she sits on this pedestal. He literally worships the ground that she walks on. And if that look wasn't enough, I think the red light that shines on his face is so indicative of his feelings, his emotions, his passion. It can't be disputed in my eyes. Okay, so a massive shout out to Girls with Sabres. I once listened to, well, I've listened to quite a few of their videos, but one of the videos they spoke about this scene in particular, and they stated that with Ben saying to Rey that she's comes from nothing, that she's a nobody, that he's in fact doing a role reversal, and that he is saying about himself that he is nothing and nobody without her, in effect, completing him. I also think it's common knowledge that throughout the films, and also explored in greater detail, that Rey refers to herself as a nobody, and in The Force Awakens, Unkar Plutt calls her nothing and a nobody, and she stands up for herself in the face of that slur. And could Ben Solo, with having access to her memories, is he trying to force her to confront her truth, to get her to stand up for herself by saying that she's nothing or a nobody, possibly being a form of, in real life, like in the army, of breaking someone down before building them up again. I very much see the flames and the ashes in the throne room scene very much indicative of a baptism by fire, and consequently with him offering her a place by his side and her rejecting this, it's all sort of come tumbling down like a stack of cards. Okay, so I hope that I've given you something to mull over and consequently see Ben Solo in a different light, not as someone who was gaslighting her, which for me, I've always seen, not always, but after The Last Jedi, I've seen Ben in a different light, someone who is trying to lecture and motivate Rey. And going back even further, when I restudied The Force Awakens, when he's fighting her on Starkiller Base, he's very much giving her a guiding hand. Now, I'm not going to go into any detail about that. I'll save that for another video. But at the end, after she's struck him down and he's laying on his back in the snow, he looks at her and he's just a light. The passion in his eyes is so evident. And not only that, but he opens his mouth and you see a bit of his tongue, and it's just like, wow, there's a really strong, confident woman. I'm so turned on by her. I'm going to show her a bit of my tongue. If he was right next to her and there wasn't a crevice separating them, I honestly think he would have gone in for a kiss. Okay, so I digress. But generally, there's very subtle hints that Ben is trying to help Rey. So I'll sign off for now, and hopefully you'll like this video and subscribe and get to see more content later. Love and light.